Hi everybody, hello, welcome to Mondays with Maja. Hello. Today we are doing part two of growth mindset, and we're going to talk more about kids and what teachers can do to foster a growth mindset. Hello everybody who's joining in, welcome. This is my decaf flat white that I'm always slightly paranoid that it's caffeinated and then I'm going to be bouncing off the walls at 2 a.m. The lighting looks really weird, Steve. Does it look weird on your end? Hi, everyone. We are doing growth mindset for kids. And if any of you watch breakfast television in the morning, you can catch me tomorrow morning in less than 12 hours on breakfast television Toronto. I will be on tomorrow. I believe my segment is at 7:20. I don't know how long it is, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10, I don't know, but they are asking me about the TED Talk. So I'll be talking about apologies and what it's been like to do a TED Talk and whatnot. So you can catch me tomorrow. Breakfast television, Toronto, 7:20. I will be there. Okay, so lots to discuss. I have a whole pile of books that I want to show you, but it'll probably come out reverse, but I will do an IG story on all of these books so that you know some of my favorite books to promote growth mindset for kids that I personally use. I love them. Does it look good on your end?
Looks good.
Oh, okay. Okay, so let's just do a quick recap of the differences between the fixed and the growth mindset. And obviously everything that I'm talking about comes from the lead researcher, the leading researcher for the past 30 years in growth mindset. And that is the eminent Professor Carol Dweck. If you haven't, you should read her book, Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. This is the updated edition. It has sold over 1 million copies, this book. This is a phenomenal book, a book that I reread constantly. I love it. So, okay, so let's just do a quick recap of the differences between fixed and a growth mindset. Okay, so fixed mindset kids believe that their intelligence is fixed. You're either born smart or you're not. You're either born good at sports or you're not. You're either born creative or musical or you're not. And students in this mindset might say, I'm not good at math. I can't write essays. Whereas a growth mindset kid believes their intelligence and their abilities can be developed. Everything can be grown. So a growth mindset kid might say, I wasn't really good at math. I really struggled, but now I'm starting to enjoy it. Now I've applied all these different strategies. Or they would say, I used to hate writing essays, but then I worked on it and I got lots of help and now I really love essay writing. So why are mindsets so important for our kids? Because having a fixed mindset or a growth mindset changes their behavior. It changes what they think they are capable of, and it either lowers their own personal expectations or it raises their expectations of what they think they can fulfill, or what they think they can do. So for kids with a fixed mindset, they see success as being linked to their talent. So you're either born creative or you're not, right? And they see successful people as born with these natural gifts. That person's just naturally good at sports, naturally musically inclined. And the consequences of this fixed mindset is that it makes children helpless in a sense. It makes them aim for mediocrity. It makes them see effort as a waste of time, as futile, because I'm not good at sports, so why would I try? I'm not good at math, so why would I try? Why would I invest all that time? For kids with a growth mindset, it's the complete opposite. They love learning. That's all they're fixated on, is how can I learn? When they fail, they look at failure as information, whereas kids with a fixed mindset take failure very, very personally. It is a humiliating, tragic thing almost, because they think that failing is a shameful experience, that others will laugh at them, that others will judge them. They want to look smart at all costs, whereas a growth mindset kid doesn't care about looking smart. They care about learning. And they know that anything can be developed if they put enough effort and focused, deliberate attention, along with getting constructive, timely feedback. They know if all of that is set into place, they will get better at a task. Because growth mindset kids appreciate and know the value of persistence and determination and effort. They also know the value of making a mistake. So they're more likely to love learning, to be lifelong learners, and also to get higher grades and to have a greater resilience when dealing with struggles. So developing a growth mindset in kids at the very minimum is going to help them do better at school. That's at the very minimum. They'll build up the resilience to handle struggles, criticism, failure. When they're taught a growth mindset, their grades go up. Their social relationships get better. Their stress and their anxiety decrease. And they just see the value of working through problems. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was praising. Because all of us, actually they did a study and they found 85%, but I don't know why it's not higher, but 85% of parents believe that it's so important to praise our kids' intelligence, that it helps them with their confidence. But the research shows us the exact opposite, that praising on intelligence makes our kids fragile, makes our kids helpless. Praising on intelligence or talent makes our kids give up sooner. That we're not setting them up with the tools to succeed. And yet all of us have been guilty of this. I know I certainly have. I have for sure told my daughter Ryo, oh, good job. Oh, you're so smart. Oh, you're so artistic. Oh my goodness, you're so creative. And that type of praise does nothing for them. So I'm going to go through a few examples of the different types of praising that we can give to our kids, right? So the problem with telling our kids that they're smart, that they're brilliant, that they're talented, that they're just a natural at this, is that it puts them in this box of brilliant, smart, talented. And then anything that they do that doesn't confirm that, they feel like a failure, right? So whenever they do something and they make a mistake or it's a struggle, they start thinking, oh, if I was smarter, I'd be able to do this. If I was more brilliant, I'd be able to do this. If I could handle this, if I was really a natural at this, I could have done it. But because we've boxed them into this thing, we've basically set them up for an inability to handle failure so that they feel dumb. And then when they feel dumb, they're less likely to persist at a task. When you're only praised for how smart you are, right? You will only seek out the stuff that confirms that you're smart. You're only going to look for the easy stuff to do, the stuff that you already know how to do, if that's all you're praised on. Because it is just this looking fabulous tonight. Ooh, I'll take that. Thank you. I just got my hair done also. Look at that. One compliment and I'm totally thrown off. Okay. Where was I saying? Okay, yes. So it's just like this natural thing in us where we just want to seek out praise. Everybody feels good with praise, right? And so we just want to do stuff that keeps confirming how smart and brilliant we are. That's the problem with praising on talent or natural ability. So Carol Dweck, the researcher on growth mindset, always says, don't praise intelligence, praise the process. Praise the effort, praise the strategy, praise the resilience, praise the determination, and be really specific about your praise. Avoid at all costs that really generic, awful, good job, oh, you're so good for you. That means nothing. It's pointless. What is she good at? What's he good at? Be specific. So let's go through some say this, don't say that exercises, okay? So I have so many here to go through. So these are all from Carol Dweck's researchers and what they have come up with. So instead of saying, you're so smart, say, I can see that you have worked really hard on this. And so the reason you want to avoid saying, oh, you're so smart, is that you're just reinforcing a fixed mindset. So instead of saying that, say, I can see, I really appreciate how hard you've worked on that. Look at all those hours you have spent on this. That helps kids see the value in effort. Another thing is, and by the way, I have said all of these things that you're not supposed to say. I have been that parent that has said all of them. So I am learning slowly how to switch out fixed mindset praise for a growth mindset. The next one is, okay, it's okay. Maybe you're just not cut out for this. Don't be mad. Maybe you're just not cut out to be an athlete, to be musical, to be artistic. When you say that, it makes kids feel like effort is futile because you've just told them either they're creative or they're not. So instead of saying, it's okay, maybe you're just not meant to do this, instead say, oh, looks like it's time for a new strategy. This strategy isn't working. What are you going to do differently next time? What are you going to do differently? Because it lets them know that they're in control of their next decision. They're the decision maker. Another one is, this is number 3. You're so natural at this. You're such a natural. We have all said this one, right? And the problem with that is the next time they fail, the next time they make a mistake, they might think, well, maybe I'm not natural at this. Maybe I'm really not good. Maybe I suck. Maybe I'm dumb, because if I was natural, I should have gotten this. So instead of saying, oh, you're such a natural at this, think about saying, I really like watching you play piano. I really love watching you play sports. I really love watching you do gymnastics. I really love watching you create. Because that's showing them that you're approving of the process regardless of the outcome. The fourth one is, you did this so quickly. Look how easily you did this. Good job. When you say that, that's something that we don't want to. This is so helpful for speech therapists. Oh, yay, great. You must be a speech therapist. That's awesome. I'm glad this is helpful for that. You did that so quickly, so easily. I just said this to Raya when she was doing her homework. And immediately I caught myself because I said, look, you just did this with no mistakes. And then I was like, oh my gosh, Maja, why did you just say that? Because sure enough, the very next page that she did for her math homework, she was worried about making mistakes. And then she said, oh, did I make a mistake? And then immediately she was like, oh gosh. So when you praise a task that they did quickly, it basically devalues effort. It shows them that if you're really good at something, you shouldn't have to put in effort. And if you're really good at something, you're not going to make mistakes. So instead of saying, you did that so quickly, so easily, look at you, no mistakes, good job. Instead of that, say, this is a good one, ready? Say, looks like that was a little too easy for you. Let's do something more challenging so you can grow your brain. Isn't that a good one? Looks like that was too easy for you. Let's find something more challenging for you so you can grow your brain. Because when you struggle on a task, you're growing your brain. You're making yourself smarter with every struggle. That's a light bulb moment for kids. When you try that on a kid, watch them sort of just kind of perk up and feel better about themselves. I tried that. I tried that on Ryo. She read something to me and I said, my daughter's in grade 1, she's 6 years old. And I read that to her and when I said, oh, Ryo, it looks like that was a little too easy for you. I don't want to waste your time. Let's do something more challenging so you can grow your brain. She just looked at me surprised, but also a little proud of herself. And she said, oh, okay, yeah. So I'm going to grow my brain. And I'm like, yes. Every time you struggle when you're reading new words, you're growing your brain. And I could see her wrapping her head around this. It was really a light bulb moment for her. Okay, so number 5. Instead of saying, that's not right, are you even paying attention? It doesn't look like you're trying. It doesn't look like you're putting in any effort right now. Don't say that, because what that does is it sort of puts them in this fight or flight moment where they can really freeze up when they're stressed about performing. So instead of saying that, you can say, that's not right. That's not right. We're having lighting issues here. That's not right. You don't understand this yet. You haven't gotten this yet. The power of yet. What strategy are you going to try to make this better? Ooh, love that. Grow your brain. Yes, yes, yes. I'm glad that you're going to use that with Sophie, or that you are using that with your daughter, Mimi. Okay, so that's not right. It seems like you don't understand this yet. What strategy are you going to use now to figure this out? What can you work on to try this in a different way? Okay? Because the reason that works is it's...
Bring your notes to you. Bring your notes to you.
Why?
The glare.
You think it's the glare off my paper?
Off the table.
Really? We're having this weird glare happen. We don't know why. So the reason you want to be honest with them is because it doesn't do them any good to lie if they can't get something. Be honest with them. You legitimately don't know how to do this, and that's okay. But what are you going to do to fix that? How are you going to get better at that? You have to explain that you believe in their capacity to learn and encourage them to develop a new tactic. So, number 6. That was so hard. That was really hard. Aren't you glad it's over? Don't say that one. Don't say that one. Because there's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be risks. There's always going to be struggles. So you want to equip them with the tools to figure this stuff out, not just be grateful that the hard task is over. So instead of saying that, say, that was really hard, but your effort paid off. Next time you are so going to be ready for that next challenge. So instead of saying, that was really hard, aren't you glad it's over? Say, that was really hard, but your effort paid off. All that hard work paid off. The next time you face this challenge, the next time you are going to be ready for it. because it reminds kids that they have the tools to overcome struggles, that they can persist, right? But it takes a lot of effort. We don't want to minimize or downplay how much work and effort is required to succeed. Raya was complaining that she didn't want to do her reading. And I was saying to her, well, you know, after you go to bed, Mama's going, this glare is really driving me nuts. There's nothing you can do about it?
I don't know where it's coming from.
So, and it's not that late? You've tried everything, huh? And so I said to her, Raya, when you go to bed, Mama's going to stay up until midnight working on her stuff. And Raya, Mama does not want to do her work. I'm so tired. Is that good now? Mama doesn't, no, it's still glaring. Mama doesn't want her to do her work. And I said, Raya, the other day, Mama was in tears. I was struggling with this research that I was doing, and I was in tears, and I was crying in my office, and I didn't want to do it. And Raya was like, really? You were crying? And I said, yup, but I stayed up until midnight, and I finished it. The glare is back. I agree. I don't know. I have no idea what's happening with the glare. I don't know why it's occurring.
It's every time you move from the table. I don't know.
We'll just have to go with it today. But I was so proud of myself, Ryo. I kept with it, and I stuck with it, and I finished it. I resolved the issue. And Ryo was like, oh, okay. And I sort of talked about how difficult that effort and that struggle was. And that's one of the important things that we have to do as teachers and parents, is to keep it real with them about our own struggles. Okay, so the last one. Instead of saying, you have a real talent for this, you have a real talent. For instance, you have a real talent with writing. You should take a creative writing course because you're so good at it. Don't say that, because if you only encourage kids to do the things that they're good at, they're going to be afraid at everything else. If you only encourage them to do the stuff that's easy for them, you're going to scare them off of effort and struggle and failure. So instead of saying that, say, you worked so hard at becoming a good writer. You should take a more advanced class. You should take a more advanced class to learn what you don't know yet. That's a beautiful growth mindset phrase to use on them. And the reason that works is because you are putting them in that challenge zone. And you are inspiring them to be lifelong learners. Woo! So, the next time you see, I have a few more details. The next time you want to compliment something that your children are doing or your students are doing, here are a few more tips. To be specific with your praising. Really, really specific. And a quick tip to remember this is avoid good job. Avoid anything general. They should know exactly what you're praising them on. So, I like the way you tried all those different strategies to figure out this math problem. Instead of saying, look, you got it right. No, I love all the different times you messed up here. Look at that, because look how many times it took you to get to the right answer. That's amazing. Look, you went through it 6 different times. Look at how well you drew that because of the detail. I love the detail on this. Talk to me more about the detail. If you don't know what to say, ask them questions. How did you come up with that problem? How did you come up with that drawing? How did you come up with the decision to do a book report on this character? Just ask them questions. Okay, So, what else do we want to talk about? So, if you are a teacher of any sort, what are some tips for teachers on how they can develop the growth mindset? One of the things that they can do is to support individual students' learning process. So as often as you can, and this is difficult because I know your class sizes are huge, but as often as you can, even if it's once a week, spend one-on-one time with a kid and get to know where they are on that fixed mindset, growth mindset spectrum, because it's a journey, really, right? It's a journey. You want to not compare students, because some will get the growth mindset right away if you teach it to some of them, if you train them, if you give them a little 30-minute session on how the brain grows when it struggles. Some of them will get it right away. Some of them may take a month. Some of them may take 10, 14 different exposures on the growth mindset to really get it. So keep up with those students that may not necessarily get it right away. And a third tip is don't lower your expectations, especially for the ones that don't get it right away. Raise your expectations with their kids. Keep pushing them to excel and catch them when they are using fixed mindset phrases on themselves. I can't remember if I mentioned this last week when we talked about, that's beeping. But there's something called a false growth mindset that both teachers and parents can have. And that's when you think you have a growth mindset. You may even use growth mindset lingo, but then when a student fails, or a student doesn't get it right away, or your kid doesn't get it right away, you immediately switch to fixed mindset lingo. And that, can you just turn that off? Okay. The dishwasher was going. And so just be aware. And you know when a fixed mindset comes about? It comes about when we fail at something. That's when it tends to rear its head. When we fail at something, when we mess up, when we struggle. And another really important thing to do is talk about your own failures. Talk about how you struggled with something. Maybe it was setting up a teaching lesson plan. Maybe you were struggling with your own kids. Talk about that so that we destigmatize failure. Another great tip for parents out there, or caregivers in general, is what sort of one really important question to ask your kids. And that is, every single day, ask them, what did they struggle on? Avoid closed-ended questions. Those are yes or no questions. Did you make any mistakes today? No. There's the end of the conversation. So ask open-ended questions where you're saying, tell me all the mistakes that you made today. Ooh, tell me what you struggled on. Oh, tell me what hard task were you working on. Oh, can you tell me about a problem that took you a lot of time to figure out? Let's have that conversation. And then when they tell you a struggle, then you tell a struggle also. You have to constantly be talking about your own mistakes, failures, struggles, challenges, so that we destigmatize failing, so that failing is information for our kids. Because how you deal with failure is one of the main characteristics of developing a growth mindset. What else do we want to talk about? Okay, I have a really cool study to tell you about that Carol Dweck did, and I've titled it The Hot Sauce. So let me tell you about this really cool study. They got two groups. These kids were ninth grade. They were in ninth grade, and they divided them into groups. And the first group got trained on growth mindset. So it was a whole workshop. They were taught how the brain grows and you make new connections every time you struggle on a task. So they got trained on that. And they also got trained on coping skills, conflict resolution, how to deal with differing personalities, right? And they learned about all the different personalities that exist and how you can change your personalities. And they also learned about the motivations behind certain behaviors. Why would a student be a bully? Why would a student be aggressive? Why would certain students be pushovers? And so they learned all about those different mindsets, right? They learned about insecurities and fears, and they learned that change was always possible. Okay, so they went through all those workshops, right? And then 1 month later, they put them in a situation where they measured their desire for retaliation. They measured their desire to get back at somebody who was mean to them. So they had them play this game, this computer game. And I think it was, it was called Cyberball. So what would happen, they each had to be a character. So they would set one student up to play this game, and there would be 3 characters in the game. And they would throw the ball to each other, right? They would be manipulating the characters to throw the ball. But then the game changed, and the ball was only thrown back and forth between 2 characters. And the student playing was never thrown the ball to. So they were excluded. And it sort of hurt their feelings because they couldn't excel at the game because the ball was never thrown to them. After that experience of being excluded, they had the opportunity to do 2 things. One was to assign hot sauce to a student's lunch who had excluded them. So they said, you know that character in the game? Well, that was Devin. Devin excluded you. You now have the opportunity to add hot sauce to Devin's lunch. You also have the opportunity to write Devin a note to let Devin know how you feel about being excluded in that game. And you know what they found? The kids who were trained in growth mindset used the least amount of hot sauce. They used the least amount of hot sauce, and they wrote growth mindset letters to the kids. So, for instance, they would say, I gave you the least amount of hot sauce because I know you don't like spicy food. And to make sure it wasn't spicy, I tasted it myself. I hope that you're going to be okay with the level of spice. They would say stuff like, I know you're probably having a hard day, and that's why you didn't pass me the ball, and that's okay. We all have tough days. The kids who had a fixed mindset, who didn't have that growth mindset, but wait for it. There's more funny stuff. The kids who didn't have the growth mindset, you know what they did? They put the most amount of hot sauce they could on a kid's lunch, up to 6 heaping teaspoons. Can you imagine how hot that was? 6 heaping teaspoons on their lunch. Then they took the hot sauce, they smeared it on the letter so that the kids would receive a letter with tons of hot sauce. And then they would say, I know you don't like hot sauce, and that's why I gave you a lot. Because you hurt my feelings. Why did you exclude me? I hope this lunch hurts. Because they wanted to get back. Because their egos were involved. Because they wanted to retaliate. But the ones that were trained on the growth mindset were able to remove their egos, remove their emotions from the situation, and take step into the other kids' shoes. Isn't that remarkable? I mean, that's something adults need to work on, isn't it? Okay, so in another study, this is the puzzle study, they gave 2 kids sets of puzzles to do. And the only thing they did differently with each group was one phrase. One group got praised on their talent, their smarts, their brilliant. The other group got praised on their effort and their strategy. So after working on the puzzle, they said to one group, "You're so smart at doing puzzles." The other group were told, "You put in a lot of effort at working on those puzzles." Then they asked both groups, "Would you like to work on a more difficult puzzle?" The ones that were praised on how smart they were did not want the more difficult puzzle. And the ones that were praised on their effort, you know what they said? "I'd love a challenge. I was hoping there would be more difficult puzzles." But the ones that were praised on how smart they were ran away from the possibility of failing, ran away from the possibility of not looking smart. So then they gave both of those groups more difficult puzzles to do. And the ones with the fixed mindset, the ones that were praised on their talent, gave up and didn't want to do the hard puzzle. And then at the end of that, they asked the kids, "What are you going to do? What are you going to do the next time you're in this situation?" And the kids with the fixed mindset, you know what they said? They said, "I'm going to look for a kid that did worse than me." Because they're trying to reconfirm that they're smart. Because when you're in a fixed mindset, the only thing that matters is looking smart, not learning. The fixed mindset kid said, I think I'll figure out a way to cheat on the puzzle. Like flat out, that's what they said. Because they were so petrified of failing. All right, so another good tip that we can give our kids or our students is the power of not yet. The next time your child or your student is struggling at something, use the word yet or not yet. You haven't figured this out yet. You're not good at this yet. Consider prefacing any negative comment that runs through your own head, any automatic negative comment with, "I don't know this yet. I'm not good at this yet." That's often what I say to myself is, "I don't know how to be an entrepreneur yet. I haven't figured this out yet." It's something that I really, truly have to repeat to myself. And another tip is praise specifically and praise sparingly. Your praise shouldn't be like a fire hydrant where you're just praising every little thing, constantly telling your kid, "Good job, good job, good job. Oh my gosh, you're so smart. Good for you, you're so brilliant." All of that is meaningless and basically harms them because you're making them more fragile and more helpless. So there is literally 30 years of research done on hundreds and hundreds of thousands of kids worldwide on this. You have to praise effort, strategy, determination, and persistence, not talent, brilliance, or smarts. And also know that developing a growth mindset is a journey. It is a journey. It's not something that you just do and then you're there and you never have to work on it again. You may have a growth mindset with certain things, but then stuff that are triggers for you, you could have more of a fixed mindset with it. So developing a growth mindset is absolutely a journey. It is a journey. It's not some destination that you arrive at. And just because you have it doesn't mean you never work on it again. You have to be really mindful of all those automatic fixed mindset thoughts that come in. Having a growth mindset means you are constantly working on developing your growth mindset and of monitoring that negative voice in your head that's constantly coming out and saying, are you sure you know this? Are you sure you're an expert? Are you sure that you're the right one for this? Are you sure you're smart enough? So you have to constantly be mindful of that negative voice. That is what a growth mindset means, that you're constantly, hi Jennifer, monitoring this and monitoring your reaction to failure. Monitoring your reaction to struggling, to challenges, to mistakes. Is your automatic thought to yourself, oh, I'm such an idiot. Why didn't I get that? Or, oh my gosh, why did it take me 40 minutes to figure this out? That's a fixed mindset thought. So be on the lookout. Just because you have a growth mindset does not mean you cannot work on it. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up, but I do want to just mention a few books, and I'll do a IG story on all these books. The first one is called Bubblegum Brain. This will probably show up backwards, but Bubblegum Brain by Julia Cook. It's called Ready, Get, Mindset, Grow. And it basically talks about how in a really kid-friendly way, I would say that this is good for kids ages like 3 to 10, basically. It talks about how you grow the neurons in your brain every single time you struggle. And it basically says your brain is like bubblegum, and every time you work on a task, you stretch your brain like bubblegum. So that's a great one. Another one is called Nobody's Perfect. This could be for your 8 to 12-year-olds because it's a chapter book, but you can also read maybe just one chapter at a time to your younger kids. And this is a story about perfectionism. And perfectionism can creep up with a fixed mindset. So that is Nobody's Perfect by Ellen Flanagan Burns. And if you want a tip, I actually have some tips on what to do if you have a child that does struggle with perfectionism, is banish the word perfect. Don't be saying anything is perfect. Our homework is perfect. The artwork is perfect. You played that perfectly. Forget about the word perfect. Perfectionism is delusional, right? The pursuit of perfectionism will destroy your confidence. It will destroy your children's confidence. It is delusional. It will set them up for failure each and every time. So be an example of imperfection. Honestly, talk about your mistakes. Talk about your struggles. Discuss what you learned new, and be mindful of when they're saying, I can't do this. You can't do this yet, right? Not yet. And always focus on the process. Acknowledge the process. Remind them of how much work they have put in to get from A to B. Okay, this is another great one. This is called Mindset Matters. And this is a story about this little girl, Amelia, and how she's all about conquering challenges by growing her mindset. And it is by Brian Smith. Another one is Listening with My Heart by Gabby Garcia, and it is about mindfulness and knowing that when we have struggles, we're not alone. We're not isolated in our process. This is my absolute favorite book. It is called Captain Snout and the Superpower Questions. Don't let the ants steal your happiness. This is all about the ants, automatic negative thoughts. It's such a brilliant book. Oh my gosh, I love this. This is by Daniel Amen. He's written a lot on neuroplasticity. He's a medical doctor. He's written lots of great books, but this is his first children's book. This is The Snurch. This is about the negative voice in our head that constantly pops in and makes us feel bad. Again, this is a picture book, probably for ages 3 to 8, and it's by Sean Farrell. And my second favorite book is Your Fantastic Elastic Brain. So this is a book for, I don't know, 5 to 10-year-olds. And it basically gets into all the different parts of the brain, but in a super kid-friendly way, where it talks about the parts of the brain that deal with emotions, and it talks about the amygdala and the cerebellum and neurons, but it does it in a way that is fun for them. The pictures are beautiful. It's not too wordy. It gives them examples that they remember. Okay, so that is Your Fantastic Elastic Brain by Joanne Deek, a fellow PhD. And then this is a beautiful book. It's called Mindful Moments at Bedtime, and it's by Paloma Rosa. And this is a tactile book. It's meant for the kids to sort of touch it. And I like this because it asks, these are meant to be read at bedtime, and it's about instituting a mindful practice for your kids to remind them of their progress. So it'll say, what did you struggle with today? And why did you struggle? And how can you get better? And what are you grateful for? And what are you thankful for? And what are you excited about learning tomorrow? It's a beautiful book. All of these are available at Indigo Online or Amazon Online. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up and remind you, catch me tomorrow morning, Breakfast Television Live. My segment airs at 7:20. I will be getting up at like 4:30 in the morning to be there. And that's about it. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. We'll see you next Monday. For Mondays with Maja. Thank you. Thanks, Rosalie. Thank you, Jennifer.